Hey, if you're enjoying these writing lessons and want to practice your writing, then get even more writing lessons and printable writing practice sheets inside our learning program. So sign up for a free lifetime account right now. It takes less than 30 seconds. Just click the link in the description to sign up and start learning in seconds. Hi, welcome to Introduction to Japanese. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Risa.
In this lesson, you'll learn the basics of Japanese writing. In English, we use one script, the English alphabet, to write. To write in Japanese, however, you will need to use 3 different scripts together.
And they are Hiragana, Katakana, and Kanji. Hiragana is like the basic Japanese alphabet.
Instead of 26 letters, however, we have 46 characters. Each character represents one syllable. These 5 characters, for example, represent the 5 vowels in Japanese.
A, I, U, E, O.
All other characters, except for one, are made up of a consonant and one of these vowels.
Ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so.
And so on.
Katakana is almost exactly the same as Hiragana. The only difference is that it's written a little differently. A, I, U, E, O, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. Hiragana is more cursive, while katakana has a lot of sharp corners. The final script is kanji.
Kanji is the use of Chinese characters in Japanese writing. This is because Japanese writing actually originated from China.
Right. A long time ago, Japan only used Chinese characters. Today, we use all 3 scripts together to write Japanese. Unlike hiragana and katakana though, kanji is nothing like an alphabet.
Kanji characters are a special type of character that represent an idea or concept. They act more like entire words than individual letters. And unlike the alphabet, there are thousands and thousands of kanji characters.
Not to mention, there are many different ways you can read them too. So the pronunciation actually changes according to the context.
Okay, now you know that there are 3 different scripts used to write Japanese, but why is this the case? Let's look at each script in a little more detail.
You can think of hiragana as the default script used to write most things in Japanese.
It's the most common of the 3 scripts because it's used to write functional words, including most grammatical particles, such as possessive,
の、私のペン
prepositions,
に、学校にいる
as a subject marker,
は、ジョンは学生です。
and it can also be used to write words that lack a kanji rendition or whose kanji is obscure or considered too difficult for the reader to understand. Additionally, it's used as inflectional endings for adjectives and verbs together with kanji.
見る、押す、白い、古い。
In theory, you could use this script to write everything in Japanese.
For this reason, it's generally best to learn hiragana first. We mentioned before that katakana is almost exactly the same as hiragana. The only difference is that it looks slightly different.
This is the least common of the 3 scripts because it's used to write foreign words and names,
コンピューター、ビール、ロンドン、ジョン、
and onomatopoeic sounds.
ワンワン、ニャン。It's common to learn katakana after you learn hiragana because of their similarities.
The final script is kanji, which is undoubtedly the hardest one of all to learn. Kanji is used to write most words of native Japanese or of historically Chinese origin. This includes most nouns,
人、学校、
the stems of most verbs and adjectives,
見る、行く、赤い、怖い、
and most personal and place names.
田中、ひろこ、東京、大阪。
Learning kanji may be difficult since there are thousands and thousands of them. They are, however, an integral part of Japanese writing. Okay, let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what we've learned.
In this lesson, you learned that there are 3 different scripts used to write Japanese. Hiragana is the most common, and it's used to write functional words and particles. Katakana is used to write foreign words and names. And kanji is used to write native Japanese words, or words of Chinese origin. Hi everyone, I'm Risa. Welcome to Basic Japanese Writing. In this series, I'm going to teach you how to master the Japanese alphabet in the fastest, easiest, and most fun way. Did you know written Japanese actually uses 3 different scripts: Hiragana, Katakana, and Kanji.
Hiragana is the basic Japanese alphabet. Contrary to the English alphabet, however, each character represents one syllable sound. So every time you see one specific character, you know that it will always sound the same way. The second script used in Japanese is katakana. Each katakana character represents the same syllable as its hiragana counterpart. However, it is written a bit differently and is used mostly for foreign words. These 2 make up the Japanese alphabet, and they will be the focus of this series. On the other hand, kanji characters represent a word or a concept, and unlike hiragana and katakana, there are thousands of them. Plus, there are also different readings for each of them. This makes kanji characters harder to master. However, it's important to learn them as well because they are essential in understanding Japanese.
To learn more about kanji, check out our kanji series at JapanesePod101.com, which I also host with Alicia.
In this first lesson, we will be diving into hiragana, and you'll be learning your first 5 characters. Hiragana characters are the most common of the 3 scripts because it's used to write functional words like grammatical particles and are also commonly found at the end of adjectives and verbs. There are also a lot of words that are more commonly written in hiragana rather than kanji. Technically, hiragana characters could also be used to substitute kanji characters that you don't know how to write. But don't use this as an excuse not to learn kanji. There are 46 hiragana characters and they are commonly arranged in this order.
Take note that when Japanese is written vertically, you read it from right to left. So we'll be starting with this column.
These 5 characters are the 5 vowel sounds in Japanese. The rest of the characters are made up of a consonant sound and one of these vowel sounds, except for the n character.
Okay, are you ready to learn your first hiragana? Here we go!
This is the hiragana character, a. To remember this character, try comparing it with an apple. Do you see it? Hiragana, a is written in 3 strokes. The first stroke is a horizontal stroke from left to right. Even though horizontal lines look totally flat in font, try writing them at a bit of an angle to make your writing look good. The second stroke is a vertical stroke that cuts the first stroke in half. It starts at the top and curves outwards and down to the bottom. The third stroke is like a spiral. It starts from the center and curves down to the left. Then it curves back up and to the right, crossing the starting point before finally going back down. Flick your pen at the end of this last stroke. To have a good balance, make sure that there isn't too much space in between the first and the third stroke. Take note of the spaces made by the third stroke as well. This space should be the smallest, then this loop is a bit larger. And finally, the space inside the flip is the largest. Okay, let's see it again. Next up is the hiragana character, I. Think of this character as 2 eyes side by side, I.
You can actually see I a lot in writing, as it acts like a suffix to most adjectives in Japanese.
Hiragana I is written in 2 strokes. The first stroke starts from this part. It's like a carved diagonal line. At the bottom, it turns sharply upwards. Flick your pen while you finish this stroke. This kind of flicked release with a sharp turn is called a hane. When you do a hane, don't put away your pen immediately. It should be as if you're connecting this stroke to the next one. The second stroke starts from here. It's actually about where you stop to turn if you haven't released your pen from the earlier stroke. Just draw an opposite curving line from the first stroke without the hane part. As you can see, this stroke should be shorter than the first one. It should look like you're enclosing a circle when writing an I. Okay, let's see it again. The third one is the hiragana, u. To remember this character, imagine a boxer getting punched in the stomach saying u. Hiragana u is written in 2 strokes. First, draw this short slanted line at the top center. For the second stroke, draw an ear shape starting from this point, curving up to the right and then down to the bottom center. Flick your pen at the end of this stroke. Make sure the first stroke is not too big so that your character won't be off balance. Okay, let's see it again. This is the hiragana character, e. It looks like an energetic ninja. Whoosh! Hiragana e is written in 2 strokes. It starts just like the hiragana u with a short slanted line on the top center. The second stroke goes like this. Look complicated? Just think of writing a number 7. Then go back, retrace a bit, then make a small wave. Extend the end of the stroke, but don't flick your pen. Try your best to keep the same line during the retracing part. This will make your writing neat. Okay, let's see it again. Now, our final character for this lesson, the hiragana o. To remember o, try to think of it as a UFO. Take a look at these 2 characters. Do you remember this character on the left? That's right, it's the hiragana a. In order to differentiate hiragana o from a, just remember that o has a floating stroke on the side.
O is also often used in writing, but unlike I, O is commonly found at the beginning of words. It is used to imply politeness.
Hiragana o is written in 3 strokes. It starts in a similar way to hiragana a with a short horizontal line, but this time is a bit lower and more to the left. The second stroke starts as a vertical line that cuts the first stroke in half. Then it turns sharply to the left, then turns again to make a big curved line. Flick your pen at the end of this stroke. The third stroke is a small slanted line. It should be located a bit to the top right of the first stroke. The left side of your hiragana o should be aligned. Keep the proportions of these spaces as well to keep a good balance. Okay, let's see it again. Let's see all the characters again. A, I, U, E, O. Now, let's review what you've learned. I'll show you a character or a word and give you time to say them. Ready? E. Remember the energetic ninja. I. Believe it or not, it's actually a word. I means stomach. U. Which one is the hiragana? It's the one that looks like an apple and doesn't have a floating stroke. This one. Ai. It means love. Ue. This one means up or above. Iie. Iie means no. Aoi. This means blue.
Great job! Do you remember when I said hiragana characters are used to spell out the pronunciation of a kanji? They are placed above or beside a kanji and written smaller. This use of hiragana is called furigana. Okay, let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what you've learned.
In this lesson, you've learned the 5 hiragana vowels. A, I, U, E, and O.
よくできました。You've now mastered your first 5 characters.
Do you know what big is in Japanese? In the next lesson, you'll learn it when you get to know your first batch of consonant vowel syllables. Before you go, practice writing the following words on your own. Ai, 会う、青、言う、家、上、おい、おう、青い、いいえ。
See you in the next lesson. またね! Hi everyone, welcome to Basic Japanese Writing, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to master the Japanese alphabet.
You've learned these 5 hiragana characters from the previous lesson. In this lesson, you learn 5 new characters and 10 new sounds. How is that possible? Stay tuned to find out. The first hiragana character for this lesson is ka. Ka. Need help remembering this one? Just imagine it as a blade cutting a stick.
Ka is actually a hiragana character that is used a lot since it is the question marking particle in Japanese. So if you see a sentence ending in ka, it is most probably a question.
The hiragana ka also has another reading. Once we add this mark. This mark is called dakuten or tenten. It is made up of 2 lines that look like a quotation mark symbol, and it's put on the upper right corner of the character. The dakuten makes the consonant of the syllable voiced. So ka with a dakuten will be pronounced as ga.
Voicing a consonant simply means that you create a vibration in your vocal cords when you say it. Ga, ga. Notice the difference? Ka, ga, ka, ga.
Hiragana ka is written in 3 strokes. The first stroke starts as a horizontal line, then bends down into a vertical curved line. Finally, it ends with a hane release. The second stroke is a downward diagonal line with a slight curve inwards. Make sure that this stroke intersects the first stroke around here. The final stroke is a curved slanted stroke to the right of where the first stroke bends. Make the last stroke slightly longer than the other small slanted strokes in previous characters to distinguish it from the dakuten. Okay, let's see it again. Okay, next up is the hiragana character ki. Ki. Ki looks like a key. Just like the hiragana ka, all of the characters in this column can be altered by a dakten. Ki with a dakten is pronounced as gi, ki, gi, ki, gi. Hiragana ki is written in 4 strokes. The first 2 strokes are 2 parallel lines, both starting from left to right. They are written at a bit of an angle. The third stroke cuts through the first 2 strokes and ends with a hane release. Because the third stroke ends with a hane, don't put down your pen yet. When you get to this point, make a small curve like half of a smile. Even though you see the fourth stroke connected to the third stroke in most fonts, the correct way to write ki is to lift your pen up before making the final stroke. Okay, let's see it again. The third one is the hiragana ku, ku. To remember this character, think of it as a cuckoo's beak. Cuckoo. Let's add a dakten to ku as well. How do you think it will sound like? It's pronounced as gu, ku, gu, ku, gu. Hiragana ku is written in 1 stroke. It is written just like an open angle bracket but with a slight inward bend. To make your handwriting neat, make sure that the start and end points are aligned. Okay, let's see it again. This is the hiragana character, ke, ke. Ke looks like a keg, doesn't it? Just like the first 3 characters, ke can be modified by a dakten. Ke with a dakten is pronounced as ge, ke, ge, ke, ge. Hiragana ke is written in 3 strokes. The first stroke is a vertical stroke with a slight outward curve, and then ends with a hane. After the hane, continue on to the next stroke. It is a short horizontal line. The third stroke is another vertical stroke that curves opposite to the first stroke but starts a bit higher and ends lower. Flick your pen at the end of this stroke. Okay, let's see it again. And our final character for this lesson is the hiragana ko, ko. Imagine this character as 2 koi fish swimming around each other. Now, can you go and say what ko sounds like with a dakten? It will be go, ko, go, ko, go. Hiragana ko is written in 2 strokes. The first stroke is a curved horizontal line that ends with the hane. Go down to this point and make a longer horizontal line that curves opposite from the first one. Just like the hiragana I, ko should look like it's enclosing a circle. Okay, let's see it again. Let's see all the characters again. Ka, ga, ki, gi, ku, gu, ke, ge, ko, go. Now, let's review what you've learned. I'll show you a character or a word and give you time to say them. Ready? Ki, just like a key. Remember? Ka actually means a mosquito. Do you remember this one? It's e, I, ko, u, ku, 書く. This means to write. 影. 影 means shadow. 聞く. This means to listen. Try not to mix this up with 書く. 声. 声 is voice. 鍵. 鍵 means key. Don't forget it. 記憶. This means memory. Make sure not to forget this one as well. 映画. 映画 is movie. 大きい. This means big.
Great job! Are you wondering how do I identify between a ducted mark and a quotation mark? Don't worry. In Japanese, we use corner brackets to signify quotes and titles instead of quotation marks. Okay, let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what you've learned.
In this lesson, you learned ka and ga, ki and gi, ku and gu, ke and ge, and ko and go.
よくできました。You've now mastered 10 characters and 15 Japanese syllable sounds.
Are you ready to learn what imagination is in Japanese? Stay tuned for the next lesson when we move on to the hiragana characters in the S column. Before you go, practice writing the following words on your own. か 書く 赤 かご 釘 貝 影 聞く 鍵 恋 駅 映画 空気 赤い 記憶 英語 気合 計画 会計 大きい
See you in the next lesson! またね! Hi everyone! Welcome to Basic Japanese Writing, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to master the Japanese alphabet.
You've learned these 10 hiragana characters from the previous lessons. In this lesson, you learn 5 new characters and again 10 new sounds. The first hiragana character for this lesson is sa. Sa. This one looks like a sad, sign face. Do you notice that sa and ki look similar? A good tip to remember the difference is that sa is so sad that it gets one less line. All of the characters in this column can also be altered by a zakuten. Can you try and guess what the new sound will be? It will be za. Do you notice the difference? Sa, za, sa, za. Hiragana sa is written in 3 strokes. It's written the same way as ki, but without the first stroke. So it starts with this line written at an angle. Then the second stroke cuts through it and ends with a hane. And finally, draw half a smile. Remember, it looks connected in font, but right way to write it is to lift up your pen first before drawing the last stroke. Okay, let's see it again. Okay, next up is the hiragana character shi. Shi. It looks like a fishing hook. Let's add a dakten to shi. How do you think it will sound like now? Did you think it was zi? Actually, shi with a dakten is pronounced as ji. Shi, ji, shi, ji. Hiragana shi is written in one stroke. Start with a vertical line going down, then at the bottom, make it curve up. Flick your pen at the end of this stroke. Say it again. The third one is the hiragana su. Su. Su looks like a spiral straw in a glass. Let's add a dakten to su as well. What do you think it will sound like? It's pronounced as zu, su, zu, su, zu. Hiragana su is written in two strokes. The first stroke is a horizontal line going from left to right. The second stroke starts from the top, goes down, makes a loop around here, continues going down, then finishes by curving to the left. Flick your pen at the end of this stroke. To have a good balance for this character, intersect the first stroke a bit to the right of the center when drawing the second stroke. This will give space for the loop. Also, try to draw the same line before and after, making the loop to make your writing neat. Make sure there is a gap between the first stroke and the loop as well. Okay, let's see it again. This is the hiragana character, se. Se. Imagine se as a mouse facing sideways. It's about to say something. Let's modify se with a dakten. It is now pronounced as ze, se, ze, se, ze. Hiragana se is written in three strokes. The first stroke is a long horizontal stroke at the center. The second stroke is a short vertical line that ends with a hane going towards the upper left corner. Since the previous stroke ends with a hane, continue the motion of your pen to this point and start drawing a vertical line that curves to the right at the bottom. Do not flick your pen. Keep in mind that the third stroke should not be longer than the first stroke. Also, try to keep a balance where the second and third stroke intersect the first stroke. Okay, let's see it again. And our final character for this lesson is the hiragana so. So. To remember so, just imagine a zigzag sewing stitch. Now, can you go and say what so sounds like with a dakten? It will be zo, so, zo, so, zo. Hiragana so is written in one stroke. The first stroke is kind of zigzag line. First, try writing a letter Z on the top half, and then continue by writing a letter C on the bottom half without raising your pen. However, don't make it curl up like a normal letter C. One thing to keep in mind is that this line in the middle should be longer than this line on top. Okay, let's see it again. Hiragana so actually has another way of writing, but this time with two strokes. This is used less often than the one before. The first stroke is a short slanted line. The second stroke is exactly the same as the more common way of writing it, but without this part. Okay, let's see it again. Let's see all the characters again. さ、ざ、し、じ、す、ず、せ、ぜ、そ、ぞ. Now, let's review what you've learned. I'll show you a character or group of characters and give you time to say them. Ready? Se. Which one is the hiragana sa? It's this one with one less horizontal line. Zu. The word zu actually means diagram. Did you remember this one? It's o. This one is ke. Sushi is the famous Japanese dish. Jiko. This means accident. Suki. Suki means like. Saku. This means to bloom. Zou. Zou is elephant. Okashi. This means sweets. Osake. Osake means alcohol. Saigo. It means last. Souzou. Souzou means imagination. Try saying this long one. 高校生. A 高校生 is a high school student.
Great job! Do you want to get better at pronunciation? Try listening to Japanese blogs and podcasts. If you don't know where to look, we have a huge library at JapanesePod101.com. Remember, mnemonics help you associate English words with the characters, so they do not necessarily teach you the right pronunciation. Okay, let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what you've learned.
In this lesson, you learned sa and za, shi and ji, su and zu, se and ze, and so and zo.
よくできました。You've now mastered 15 characters and 25 Japanese syllable sounds.
Did you know that Japanese has a word for the day after tomorrow? You'll get to know it in the next lesson when we tackle the T column. Before you go, practice writing the following words on your own. Kasa, 押す, 騎士, すぐ, 好き, 消す, 9時, 塩, 意識, 仕草, 誘う, 起こす, 少し, 探す, 四角, 返す, うさぎ, 再生, おかしい, 学生.
See you in the next lesson! またね! Hi everyone! Welcome to Basic Japanese Writing, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to master the Japanese alphabet.
You've learned these 15 hiragana characters from the previous lessons. In this lesson, you learn 5 new characters, 10 new syllable sounds, and an extra character function. Curious? Stay tuned to learn all about them. The first hiragana character for this lesson is ta. Ta. Ta actually looks like a ta, like a small letter T and A. All of the hiragana in this column can be altered by dakten as well. Can you guess what the new sound will be after adding a dakten to ta? It will be da, ta, da, ta, da. Hiragana ta is written in 4 strokes. The first and second stroke is written like a small letter T, but the second stroke goes diagonally to the bottom left. This should be a bit left of the center to make space for the following strokes. The third stroke is a small curved stroke to the right of the T. Then, the fourth stroke is also a small curved stroke with an opposite curve to the previous stroke. Okay, let's see it again. Okay, next up is the hiragana character, chi. Chi. Does chi remind you of another character? It looks like the mirror image of sa, doesn't it? Just think of chi as a cheerleader, angry at sa for copying her. Now, let's add a dakten to chi. How do you think it will sound like now? Is it D? Actually, chi with a dakten is pronounced as ji. It's just like a shi with a dakten. Ji, chi, ji, chi, ji. Hiragana chi is written in 2 strokes. The first stroke goes from left to right. It is written at an angle. The second stroke starts as a diagonal stroke that intersects the first stroke, then continues into a semicircle. Flick your pen at the end of this stroke. Even though it's like a mirror image of sa, you don't need to lift your pen for this part to write it correctly. Okay, let's see it again. The third hiragana for this lesson is tsu. Tsu. This hiragana is very easy to remember. Tsu looks like a tsunami wave. Let's add the dakten to tsu as well. How do you think it will sound like? It's actually pronounced as zu. It's similar to su with a dakten. Zu. Listen carefully. Tsu, zu, tsu, zu. Actually, tsu has a special version that looks like this, and it's called chisai tsu. Literally, small tsu.
It's actually just a smaller size tsu. So what do we use it for?
The chisai tsu is used to prolong the consonant after it. Take a look at the following examples and listen to how I say them. かっこいい、実家、買った。To compare, here are some words without it. 過去、時間、肩。Now, listen as I say them side by side. 過去、かっこいい。時間、実家、肩、買った。When found at the end of the word, the 小さいつ acts like a glottal stop. For example, あ。Hiragana tsu is written in 1 stroke. It's written just like a big wave. Flick your pen at the end of this stroke. Okay, let's see it again. Next is a hiragana character, て。て。Hiragana て looks like a dog's tail. Let's modify て with a dakten. It is now pronounced as で、て、で、て、で。 Hiragana te is written in one stroke. First, draw a line from left to right and then go back and make a huge curve. Okay, let's see it again. Our final character for this lesson is the hiragana to. To. To looks like a tornado. What does to sound like with the dakten? To with the dakten is pronounced do. To, do, to, do. Hiragana to is written in two strokes. The first stroke is a small slanted stroke that goes to the middle. The second stroke is a big curved line, meeting the first stroke in the middle, then bends back almost near the bottom. Try to keep the start and end of the second stroke aligned to ensure your handwriting is neat. Also, make sure the second stroke doesn't cross the first stroke. Okay, let's see it again. Let's see all the characters again. Ta, da, chi, ji, tsu, zu, 小さいつ、て、で、と、ど。Now, let's review what you've learned. I'll show you a character or a group of characters and give you time to say them. Ready? て、て as a word actually means hand. This is ず、ず. Which one is the hiragana chi? It's this one, the one that looks like the angry cheerleader. Go, se, kutsu. This means shoes. Chizu, chizu is map. Deshi, deshi means apprentice. Tatsu, this means to stand. Toi, toi means far. Tsuzuku, it means to continue. If you've ever watched Japanese TV dramas or anime, I think you have seen this one. Dochi, it means which. Daigaku, daigaku means university. Literally, it means big school. Asatte, this means the day after tomorrow. Ochitsuku, ochitsuku means to calm down.
Great job! You might ask if chi and shi sound very similar with the dakten. Then how will I know which one to use? Most of the time we use ji. Ji is very rarely used in Japanese. It is only used for compound kanji which have chi as their original sound. For example, blood in Japanese is chi, but nosebleed becomes hanaji. Okay, let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what you've learned.
In this lesson, you learned ta and da, chi and ji, tsu, zu, and 小さいつ, te and de, and to and do.
よくできました。You've now mastered 20 characters and 35 Japanese syllable sounds.
Now you know which is which. But do you know what is what? Find out in the next lesson where I'll teach you the hiragana characters in the N column. Before you go, practice writing the following words on your own. 土 足す 口 次 鉄 地図 続く、近い、遠い、時計、違う、楓、地下鉄、戦う、小さい、決定、手続き、大学、落ち着いた、かっこいい。
See you in the next lesson! またね! Hi everyone! Welcome to Basic Japanese Writing, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to master the Japanese alphabet.
You've learned these 20 hiragana characters in the previous lessons. In this lesson, you learn 5 new hiragana characters. The first hiragana character for this lesson is na. Na. Think of na as a complicated nut. Are you confused between ta and na? Just remember that na looks more complicated, so it gets mixed up in a nut. Also, remember that the left side of ta is taller.
Do you remember that hiragana I is used as the suffix for most adjectives? These are called I adjectives. The other kind of adjectives are the na adjectives. These use the hiragana na as the particle to connect two nouns.
Hiragana na is written in 4 strokes. The first stroke is a short horizontal stroke. Next is a diagonal stroke that cuts through the first stroke. It only goes until the middle. The third stroke is a short curved stroke to the right and under the first stroke. It ends with a hane and continues onto the next stroke. The final stroke goes downwards, then makes a loop. Unlike the loop in su, this one doesn't need to follow the same line as when it started the loop. Okay, let's see again. Okay, next up is the hiragana character ni. Ni. Ni looks like a knee. Easy to remember, right? Hiragana ni is written in 3 strokes. The first stroke is like that of the hiragana ke. It is a vertical stroke with a slight outward curve, and then it ends with a hane. The second and third stroke is like the hiragana ko, but smaller. Start with the curved line on top, then follow it with the bottom line curved in the opposite way. Okay, let's see again. The third one is the hiragana nu. Nu. To remember this character, think of a pair of chopsticks holding a bunch of noodles. Hiragana nu is written in 2 strokes. First, draw a curved, slanted line. The second stroke starts at the same height as the first stroke, but curved opposite it. Make a big curve, then finishes with a loop. Take a look at the proportions of the spaces. These 2 are small ones. This one is a bit larger. And this one has the biggest space. Okay, let's see again. This is the hiragana character ne. Ne. Think of ne as a snail, hiding behind a nail. Ne looks similar to nu, doesn't it? Well, Just remember that you need a pair of chopsticks to be able to hold your noodles. So nu has two lines sticking out on top of the curve and ne just has one. Hiragana ne is written in two strokes. The first stroke is a vertical line which goes from top to bottom. The second stroke starts with a short horizontal line that passes the first stroke. It then goes diagonally to the left, passing the first stroke again. Then it retraces back, makes a big curve, and ends with a loop. Okay, let's see again. And our final character for this lesson is the hiragana no. No. It's easy to remember this one. It's like a no sign.
No is also a widely used hiragana. It is the particle used to denote possession.
Hiragana no is written in one stroke. It starts from this point, goes down and bends to the left, and continues on to make a big curve that passes through the starting point. Make sure that the curve meets the starting point, but try your best not to go too low and make the vertical line protrude. Okay, let's see again. Let's see all the characters again. Na, ni, nu, ne, no. Now, let's review what you've learned. I'll show you a character or a word and give you time to say them. Ready? Ni, just like a knee, remember? Which one is the hiragana ta? It's this one. It does look like a ta, doesn't it? Ji, this also means letter. Remember this one? It's se. Cuckoo, it's a ku. Nu. Nani? This means what? What? Nani means what? Inu. This means dog. Nya. Neko is cat. Niji. Niji means rainbow. Okane means money. Senaka, it refers to your upper back. Natto. Natto is fermented soybeans. It's known to be very smelly, but it's very good for you. Onegai. Onegai means please. As a noun, it also means a request.
Great job! Are you wondering why there's no Dakuten version of nani nu ne no? This is because the N sound is already voiced. Try to feel your throat. There's a vibration, right? Okay, let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what you've learned.
In this lesson, you learned the hiragana characters na, ni, nu, ne, and no.
よくできました. You've now mastered 25 characters and 40 Japanese syllable sounds.
Did you miss the Dakuten in this lesson? Next time, I'm going to introduce 5 more characters and another modifying mark, so don't miss it. Before you go, practice writing the following words on your own. Nani, 犬 猫 夏 喉 肉 布 熱 脳 国 日記 昨日、農家、きのこ、お金、納豆、行かない、お願い、たけのこ、懐かしい。
See you in the next lesson! またね! Hi everyone! Welcome to Basic Japanese Writing, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to master the Japanese alphabet.
You've learned these 25 hiragana characters from the previous lessons. In this lesson, you learn 5 new characters and 16 new sounds. I promise it will be easy, so stay tuned to learn all about them. The first hiragana character for this lesson is ha. Ha. To remember ha, imagine this part is a capital letter H, and then there's a small a in front of it. Ha. Ha might look similar to ke, so it may be confusing. To tell the difference between them, remember that ha has a hook. Did you miss the dakten last lesson? Well, this column can be modified by adding a dakten as well. Can you guess what the new sound will be after adding a dakten to ha? It will be ba, ha, ba, ha, ba. But wait, there's one more mark that can modify the H column. It's the handakten, or maru mark. It looks like a small circle and it's placed in the same position as the dakten. This mark makes the consonant of the syllable plosive and it's unique to this column. Ha with the handakten is pronounced pa, ha, pa, ha, pa.
A consonant is plosive when there's a big burst of air coming out of your mouth when you say it. Pa, pa. Try to feel the difference. Ha, ba, pa, pa.
Ha is also a popular hiragana. It's a topic marking particle in Japanese. So the word or phrase that comes before it is the topic of the sentence.
But be careful, ha is pronounced differently when it's used as a topic marking particle. It will be pronounced as wa.
For example, これは箸です。箱は大きいです。母は花が好き。
Many native speakers actually find it hard to read this last example if it's written just in hiragana. This is where kanji is very useful. Knowing which part is a word and which part is a particle makes it easy to read Japanese.
Hiragana ha is written in 3 strokes. The first 2 strokes are similar to the hiragana ke. It starts with a curved vertical stroke that ends with a hane. Then the second stroke is a short horizontal line. The third stroke is a vertical line which crosses the second stroke and finishes off with a loop. Okay, let's see it again. Okay, next up is the hiragana character hi. Hi. Can you see a smiling mouth going hi 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 hi? Now, let's add a dakten to hi. Hi with a dakten is pronounced as bi, hi, bi, hi, bi. And how will it sound like with a handakten? It's going to be pi, hi, pi, hi, pi. Hiragana hi is written in 1 stroke. Start by making a short horizontal line, then trace back a bit and make a big curve that ends around here. Trace back again and make a small curve. Okay, let's see it again. The third hiragana for this lesson is fu. It's not fu or fu, but somewhat in between fu. It's a sound unique to Japanese, so let's remember it with something unique to Japan. Mount Fuji. Let's try adding a dakten to fu as well. How do you think it will sound? It's pronounced as bu. Listen carefully. Fu, bu, fu, bu. Now let's try it with the handakten. It becomes pu, fu, pu, fu, pu. Hiragana fu is written in 4 strokes. The first stroke is a short slanted stroke on the top. It ends with a hane. The second stroke is a medium-sized stroke that looks like a nose. Flick your pen at the end of this stroke and continue on to where the third stroke starts. Draw a short slanted stroke. This one also ends with a hane. Continue on to this point, where you make a final short carved line. It takes some time to get used to writing this character smoothly, so be sure to practice writing it. Okay, let's see it again. Next is the hiragana character he. He. It looks like it's pointing up to heaven, where the sky is. Let's modify he with a dakten. It's now pronounced as be, he, be, he, be. And when he is modified with a handakten, it will be pronounced as pe, he, pe, he, pe. He is the particle used to indicate the place towards which something is moving.
Just like ha, he also changes pronunciation when used as a particle. In this case, we pronounce it as e, just like the hiragana e.
Listen to some examples. 学校へ行く、駅へ行く。Hiragana he is written in 1 stroke. Start from the middle and draw a diagonal line upwards. Then, turn and make a longer diagonal line towards the bottom right. The peak of this character should not be in the center. Instead, it's a bit to the left. Also, the line upwards should be a little bit shorter than that of the downwards line. Okay, let's see it again. Our final character for this lesson is the hiragana ho. Ho. Try imagining a horse's face with its mane on the left side to remember this character. Does ho remind you of ha? They both have a hoop. So how do you remember them? Well, ho has 2 horizontal lines, and ha only has 1. So this means ha has only half the lines and ho has the whole lot. What does ho sound like with a dakten? Ho with a dakten is pronounced bo, ho, bo, ho, bo. And with a handakten, it will be po, ho, po, ho, po. Hiragana ho is written in 4 strokes. The first stroke is a curved vertical line with a hane at the end, just like the first stroke of ha, ni, and ke. The second and third stroke are 2 short parallel lines on the top right. The final stroke begins from the second stroke, goes down, and cuts through the third stroke and ends with a loop. Make sure that the final stroke does not start above the second stroke. Okay, let's see it again. Let's see all the characters again. Ha, or if it's used as a particle, wa, ba, pa, hi, bi, pi, fu, bu, pu, he. Or if it is used as a particle, e, be, pe, ho, bo, po. Now, let's review what you've learned. I'll show you a character or a word and give you time to say them. Ready? Fu. Remember that it's like Mount Fuji. Bi. It has the handakuten which makes it plosive, so it's pe. Na. Remember, it's the complicated knot, right? Which one is the hiragana ha? It's this one with the hoop and half the horizontal lines as ho. Go. Chi. Hana. This means flower. Hiza. It's your knee. This could be hashi, meaning chopsticks, or hashi, which means bridge. Fushigi. Fushigi means strange. Hanabi. This is Japanese for fireworks. Literally, it means fire flowers. Fukuzatsu. This means complicated. Hikidashi. Hikidashi is a drawer. Keppeki. It means perfectionist.
Great job! As you learn more characters, you notice that some of them look similar. Try making a chart of your own, grouping similar characters and list down a unique feature you can find for each so that, when you see it, you can identify that specific character easily. Okay, let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what you've learned.
In this lesson, you learned ha, ba, and pa, hi, bi, and pi, fu, bu, and pu, he, be, and pe, and ho, bo, and po.
よくできました。You've now mastered 30 characters and 56 Japanese syllable sounds.
Are the dakuten and handakuten marks getting too complicated? Don't worry, this is the last column you'll use them in. Next time, there's no need to use your head as much, but you learn how to say it in Japanese instead when we move on to the M column. Before you go, practice writing the following words on your own. Hata, 骨 8 星 肘 膝 ひげ ニキビ 1つ 2つ 放棄 差別 響き 日付 複雑 方法 一つずつ 潔癖
See you in the next lesson! またね!
Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description.